Afternoon, everyone. So today is the book creator session. This is a second session that comes after um, the session that Andrew looked at yesterday, Andrew Jewell. There will be a bit of crossover, but you'll find that we may cover slightly different things and we may have a slightly different approach. This app is really exciting. It's got a lot of different uses and different approaches that you could use to learning. Today, I'm going to focus on creating a personal portfolio or a reflective document. And then, following from that, I'm going to maybe talk to you about how you can maybe use some of the tools to make an assignment with guided support. I'm Paul Graham. I'm part of the Inspire Learning team. I'm an Apple Professional Learning Specialist, and I was last year the faculty head of Maths and Computing at Kelso High School before I was seconded into this role. And I'm just going to take you through a few of the items that we're going to go through today. So I'm just going to check first of all that there's 6 people in attendance, and if you get a chance at some point, could you just say hi in the chat, just so we have a record for the CPD system, and we can get started then. So just hopefully everyone can hear me as well, and that will be us getting going. So, right, so, hi Suzanne. So let's get started. As you can see, I was just testing my broadcast there. Right, so when we look at Book Creator, it's first off, there was a little bit of an issue with the setup around licensing, which meant that one of our tech team made a mistake in how it was deployed recently, and he ended up removing it from a lot of people's devices who were already using that. Really apologise for that as part of the Inspire team. It meant that a number of books were lost. I lost a number of the ones that I created, so you'll see a few books that I was putting together today with a few classes as a quick demo, that are not particularly high end because they were done in front of a class, but my more detailed ones are a little bit missing. So let's get started. If you have any problems around Book Creator being downloaded, just drop me an email, because there seems to be one of the items that we've been working from has gone missing, or just it doesn't download very well, so it might need a little push, and we can do that for you guys if you just give us a little direct line. When we open up Book Creator, there is the Getting Started tutorial. It gives you a brief outline of some of the items, but let's just actually jump straight into this and create a new book. So when we do that, we go to the top hand side and we open up and we get our different settings of templates that we can use. We can go for portrait, square, landscape, and today I'm just going to be using a portrait design, and it's something that I sort of feel like I use the most often when I put this together. Now, in here, I I use a number of little settings in this, and to start with, I make sure on the right I go to editor settings, and I like to show guides, snap to guides, and snap to grid. This just means that when I move things around the pages, it kind of fits into a more aligned position. So if you want a more free-flowing document, you want to switch these off. But if you are happy with the sort of the more fixed setting, and sort of more proportional, this is the place to go. So that was in the I section, and then it was in editor. Now, what I'm going to say to you is anytime we're adding anything, we're using the plus tool. Anytime we're editing something that's within the app, we're using the I tool. It's pretty much the case. So I'm going to start off by just setting a background before I start. So I'm just going to go into this and choose a background color, and I'm just going to use the blue. And after that, I'm going to add in a pre-used image. So I'm just going to go into plus, and I can actually have a little look at this. Yes, Mr. Black.
Hi there. I can't actually see your screen at the moment. Am I maybe doing something
All right,
wrong?
no, not a problem at all. I'll maybe do a resend this. I don't know why that's not the case. Um, I'll just restart and
That's great, thank you.
we'll go into share, and hopefully that's the case. It will start, and then are you now starting to see my?
Oh, that's great. Yeah, lovely. Thanks for that.
Don't know why that wasn't working, but thank you for
Thank
giving
you.
me that heads up. Okay, so when we're adding our images into this, what we want to do is make sure that we are going from our previous camera shots that we might have made ourselves, or we could actually just go into pre-chosen photos. So I've got in my selfies here, I'll take one from earlier, and I can just add this in. Now, if I want the image, I don't want all the image or just parts of the image showing, I can do a little bit more zooming and enlarge it. The outline around the image will basically highlight what is visible when I play the book or when the book is actually in use. So when I press the play button just now, you'll see that it's a much more zoomed in version, so it will come up in a second. And you'll see that a lot of the image has been cut out already. The other thing to be aware of when you add this tool is that you can add text, and that can be done either by pen or written. So if I'm just going to type in my book creator or my portfolio, I'm just going to put that in underneath so that I can basically add that together. So I'm just type that in and then click done, and then I'm just going to drag that blue dot around, and if I go to the I can change the size of the text from smaller to larger. I don't want it too small, obviously, and I'll make it a little bit, move it up. And I also want to change the color of that to a little bit, stand out a little bit more when I move it onto my picture, and so on. Position, you can edit it. So let's push this into the middle there. Once I've done that, guys, I'm just going to turn over the page. So I'm going to create a personal reflective document. So when I've been, last year and the year before, I've often, well actually not last year, but the year before I was on the Battlefields trip, and that was something I used to do quite a lot with Kelsall High School. So a lot of the time the pupils were encouraged to do a little bit of personal reflection as they went through and add as they go. So what we could actually get the pupils to have done if we had brought our iPads is we could have actually had them adding different images or images that were related to the task that they were doing. So if you were wanting to get kids to do a reflective piece of work, you could get them to add images that they find online, or if they were doing a little project, they could actually, if they were doing that out and about, you could get them to take those photos, gather them up, and then collate them into a document like this later. We can also add, if you were designing a reflective document, you might want to add a sort of an environment or a theme to this as you go through it. So we can add different sort of audio and sound. Now I'm going to show you how we can add sound from a website or something similar, and you can do that by just adding a file and finding an audio clip, that you have already saved, or you can actually go to a website and download it. So I'm just going to go to a website just now on the BBC, and I'm just going to go to BBC audio clips, and there is a whole selection of different sound effects and other things that you can use in this item here, and I could take out and download any of the sound effects that they have. They're all free and they're all sort of available for people to do just now. I'm just going to leave that. I've done this a little bit earlier. Now after I've downloaded that, I want to have the sound effects of someone walking that goes along with this. So I chose someone from this website that recorded someone walking, and I want to add that in. So I made sure I saved that file into my files section, and I'm just going to bring that over to here and hang it out. Now I've got the audio file, and I'm just going to drop into files, and I'm just going to go to footsteps, and I'm going to drag it into my book creator folder, and then I can add my audio clip that I've downloaded from online, and I could slide the other file aside. So I've now just added a audio clip that I found online into it. So I downloaded that, and then I was able to drag that into my book creator. If I don't want that to be visible when my book is playing, I can actually just put that over the picture, so if a pupil wants to click on the picture, they can get the audio effect of those individuals, or an audio effect that goes along with the image. And I could do that by going into the I section, because I'm editing the audio clip, and I can click invisible in books, and it fades it out, and that makes it a lot more accessible for makes it sort of unclear when I go into my book. But if I was then to play the book, I can actually see it disappears almost entirely. But if I tap on that image, I will now get the audio recording playing at the time that I've opened this page. I'm not going to do that just now because it doesn't really come across in a demonstration like this over online. Now, as you go through it, I could also add a reflective point from myself. That's an audio clip, and I could do that by just going to the add button here and selecting add sound, and that would allow me to either reflect on what the audio clip is or the video or the image says to me. I could add a sound and just record it. This image is quite striking because it reminds us of the injuries that the soldiers had in World War I. And once I've finished that recording, I can then just place that so that anybody else can see it. Now you'll notice when I was putting this in that the red icon on the left appears. That's so it doesn't stop me sliding my page backwards and forwards and I accidentally press the play button for that. So now I've actually able to get my pupils not just thinking about some of the images, but they're able to reflect on them as they're actually putting this book together, which is going to add to their understanding or give them more of a thought process rather than just creating the book. They're now getting them to think about it and be vocal about it, which is really going to add to that. If I want to add video, it's the same process. I can go to the plus, I can go to photos, and I can select any previous videos that I've made before. So I've got one of the Inspire team here, which links into one of the iMovies that demos I've done, where we looked at putting in using the green screen in the video, so we're able to make that. I'm just going to leave that video there so that I can add that in. But there is another way I can add video in. It doesn't just have to be a context or a video that I've made myself, live or previously. I can add a video that that works, that I've made or found online. Oh, I'm just going to delete this. Now, once I've chosen a video, so let's say if I'm keeping along the World War One theme, I wanted to do a bit of research on that, and I found an excellent video that shows me um, how I can actually, why the World War One started and a general summary of it. It's on YouTube, so if I just go to the link at the top or share button, I can actually take a copy of the YouTube address. Now once I've copied that YouTube address, I can insert that entire video into my book. And the way I do that is by going back into Book Creator, going to the plus button, and because I've copied it, it's going to be in more, and it's a website that I'm embedding. So I go to web embed, and because I've copied it, the address will pop up in that box already. If I know the web address, I could type it in, but it's always better to get pupils to copy it beforehand. And then I click next, and then what I will have is a little pop-up with the title, and I click done, and now I can reorientate my history video. So as you can see, guys, I've got my document is starting to build up and create the context of my trip to the battlefields, and I'm able now to add in content that I've experienced, my own personal opinions, and I'm actually also able to use resources from otherwhere. So this is a really good opportunity for a portfolio of my work that I've created and sort of with some reflections in it, or it could actually be part of a project that I'm putting together. Now, that's one option that you could use for your portfolio. But what happens if you wanted to actually create a guided assessment or guided support? So one of the things that you could do is you could create with this book creator a document or a task book that pupils can use to help them do homework or work with. So as a maths teacher or a primary school teacher who teaches a bit of maths, or if you're a science teacher who has a little bit of physics or biology, you might want to do some equations in your task. So we want to add something. It's not always the easiest to add this as from the text. So what we can do is we can insert that using the pen tool. Now if you're lucky enough to have an Apple pen, that's brilliant. We can actually just write with that, or actually, to be honest, any other pen works as well, any of these sort of softer edges ones. So I can write in a maths equation here. I know you are all probably big fans of maths at school, and I can actually write down my question book. I could also add, using the YouTube video, a help session that goes along with it. So I was working with a primary school teacher earlier yesterday, and we were putting together a bit of a set of questions that she was able to do with flipped learning. So she was setting a video, and she was then adding the questions that went along with the video beside it. So the pupils were able to look at the questions they were expected to do and actually put the video to it. So they were able to get an instant lesson that they were able to watch and answer the questions as they were working through. You could also add a set of questions that go along with the video saying what's the mistake, and have pupils be able to write down what the mistake is, and they could actually annotate this themselves if you allowed them to. So if you were giving them that opportunity, they could add in their own annotations where they could choose a different colour, and they could argue where the mistake has been. So they could say that it's not 3, it should be 4. And obviously getting them to do a little bit of reflection like that. They can use their finger to do that on the more straightforward questions. Now, another thing you might want to do is take a set of questions from out with a document. So if I want to insert a little image or a document that I've made before, I could take that from elsewhere and add that in as I go through this. So I'm just going to open up another file, and I'll just jump straight into a page document I've got here. So people's internet not working. And if I wanted to, I could take a screenshot of that, and I could then insert that image into my Book Creator app. So if I wanted to, I could either find a pre-test or a questions that I've made or found online, and I can just take that by taking a screenshot and adding that in. Now, actually, I don't want my pupils just to be looking at a screenshot. What happens if I wanted everybody in my class to see a worksheet and actually be able to work through that entire task sheet? I can add not just an image, but I could add actually a whole workbook in, or a whole previous set of text, or I could even add my own reflective or typed up essay, or my own typed up text, and I can do that by going into files, and I can just choose an entire file from in there, and it will give me a little box. I'm hoping that pops up, which goes, and when I tap on that box, it will open up a separate box entirely that I can scroll through and visibly see what's going on. So I could put supporting documents that go along with my task that can be popped up as a pupil's working through it. It's going to add a new page. Finally, guys, as we're getting a little bit near the end here, the one other thing you can do is, if you were wanting to look at different shapes and a little bit more map orientated, if you go to map, you can actually get the kids to look at the maps within the iPad or Google, and actually get them to look at a particular place. So where am I just now? I am in Jedburgh, so I could zoom down into Jedburgh, and I could even look into it as a different version. I could look at it as a satellite, and I could be adding that in to my map space, and I then actually have the location. So if we actually go back to the situation we were talking about before, where I was doing a little project, I could do the same for a battlefield on a particular place in Ypres or somewhere similar, and we could add that in as a part of the reflection. And you can add different shapes that will be little thought processes that might allow you to take you through a note. So if you were doing an experiment and getting pupils to take you through the process of that, the image could be the steps that they go through. So if I actually look through some of the work that I'd taken of previously, it was one pupil's first attempt at drawing an eye, and they could then annotate that and add their second one by going to more, adding a shape, and it could be moving on to their improved section, and then actually putting in the next photo, which is their next stage of their process. And then after that, they can add in their own reflection underneath. I've improved my drawing of my eye by adding in more shadowing in a more detailed way. And then I have my addition of my reflection that goes along with why I've improved my diagram, or why I've improved it. Now, what happens if I've realized that I've not quite ordered things in the way I would like it to be? So what happens if I wanted this reflection piece to be further into my book? Well, what I can do is I can go to pages on the top here, and I can reorder everything in how it's laid out. So I want to keep my drawings and my other work in a slightly different order. So if I go to edit, on the top right, I can then slide my documents along and click done, and that means that I can now, when I go through my book, find that the image of the map comes after my first reflection and it's now reordered. So you can get all of that set up and allow you to sort of process through it and skip through it as you go. I'm just thinking if I've got anything else I need to add onto this. Oh yes, a really important one is about actually how we share that with pupils. And how we can share that with pupils is in two ways. Is we can go to the front page, then we go to the box tool. Now if I want to back it up, I can export as an EPUB and I save it to files, and that would allow me to save it there. Or I could publish it straight to Teams if I had pupils working in a team. Or if you had Shobi, you could actually publish these straight to Shobi, which I think is coming to primary schools soon. Hopefully some of you guys got a chance to see Andrew's interview with about strategic positioning. The other one is we could export as an EPUB, and the other location I like to put mine is I copy it to books, and that allows you to actually share the books with pupils if you've got a piece of their work by going into the Books app, go into your library in here, and you can actually get different books of work where I've added a few things in, and I can skip through that, and we can use Book Creator to create those books. I thought I'd give you one final little suggestion or little idea for some people at the end here. I'm just going to add this into my final book, and this is about getting straight lines in your book. Now I'm a maths teacher, so I'm just going to give you a couple of things that you could do here. You can actually use these books in a quite a slick way. So I'm going to add in, using the pen tool, some straight lines. So I went to the plus, then the pen, and then up at the top I'm going to click on the pen, and now there's the auto tool. Now this is a really interesting one. If I click on auto and then make a drawing, now that's a little bit curved. Along the top you'll see a load of different images. Now if I actually click on one of those images, what we're going to find is it's going to pop up roughly where I had my line. So that's one of the previously drawn ones. Now I'm going to add another one. I'm just going to add in a line tool, and I'm going to choose a straight line, and I'm going to make that a little bit larger, and then I'm going to draw a second line after I've done that, and I'm just going to click line, and I'm going to position that over here, and I'm going to rotate this slightly. So I'm just going to rotate this using my two fingers. I can rotate the image and position it so it's at a slight angle, and I can also, once I get into this, I could add a protractor into from my images, and now if I move the protractor to the back by going to move to back, I now have a protractor that is usable to actually measure the angle of the angles that I've drawn, or the shapes that I've drawn, and you can actually use that to build up your set of images as you go. So it gets quite a powerful tool when you start to get into using it a little bit more. So there's lots of options about this, and lots of opportunities to play around with it to really enhance teaching and learning, both in a way as a reflective or portfolio document, or in a way that you could set up as a supported and independent study resource. I hope you found that useful, guys. If you have any questions, um, feel free to either drop them in the conversation in the chat box, because I've got a little box that I can see whether or not you have, or you can pop up a question like Roddy did, where you just put your hand up, and I'm more than happy to answer any further questions you guys might have. Well, if there's no questions, feel free to enjoy your weekend, and hopefully you'll have a really good time. Uh, Andrew, I noticed you just jumped on. You got any other pointers from what you've seen that you think would be good to contribute? Oh, can I change the page color add-ins? So if I want to change the page color, that would work. So if I go to the eye, I can change just the background. Is that what you were meaning, Suzanne? Or are you talking about how the image actually changes? So if I was in a...
No, I just meant, could you change the background colour? Can you add lines and things like that?
Yeah, you can. Fantastic question. I missed that one out. It's a very good point. So if I go to, if you go down to the backgrounds, there is different patterns and papers you can use. So if you go to papers, you would, if you were doing, let's say, Suzanne, because you're a science teacher, you were wanting to do some graphing, you could choose to make the whole background a particular graph paper. Or if you were a music teacher, you could put in a music background, so you could actually put in the bars of music. So you could actually use this as a way to sort of deliver that. Or if you were wanting to demonstrate how to form text or words for writing, you can choose different writing space, line spacing, and then if you have a pen or pencil, you could write how you'd want to form that and actually put that together in the stages that are necessary for pupils to practice. So that's a really good question, Susanna. Anybody got any other ones? I've recorded this session, so I will be uploading it shortly. And again, there's a few that I've got to upload together, but they will be coming up on the YouTube channel and in the YouTube section. So that should be something that if anybody has anybody that they would think would find that useful, they can jump into that session. But otherwise, guys, feel free to enjoy the rest of your weekend. Don't know why I'm giving you guys permission there. It's a bit of an odd one.